is a second stage defense to death reminders, and that is remembrance by and supporting one's surviving in-group. So what this is called is lasting social impact, or also called the pursuit of symbolic immortality. So let's look at this research concept. Now, look, avoidance is great, but it's only temporary, right? External realities will bump in and they'll interfere with our ability to avoid this reality. Illness, injury, advancing age, death of a friend or family member, even getting ready for international travel now that that's opening back up a little bit more, or engaging in estate planning. All of those things break through our ability to engage in avoidance. So what happens when people can't use avoidance anymore? They then move to the second stage, also known as the distal response to death reminders, is proximal and distal, which is the pursuit of symbolic immortality. So it's this idea that, okay, I admit it, I'm going to disappear, but some part of my identity will continue on. Some part of my identity, meaning my values, my beliefs, some part of my story will continue on, and it continues on through my influence and support of my surviving in-group. Now, that in-group might be family members, my identifying community, interest group, whatever that case may be. But it's this idea that my identity in some way will continue on beyond my own life. We actually have a massive amount of experimental results that confirm this. So for example, if you remind people of their mortality, it increases their attraction to being remembered positively. So death reminders will increase desire for fame. They'll increase interest in naming a star after yourself. By the way, you can get online and do this. It's only like $50. They're not going to run out of stars anytime soon. It increases people's perception of their own past significance, increases their likelihood of describing positive improvements when writing an autobiographical essay, increases their perceived accuracy of a positive personality profile of themselves. More broadly, what this does is death reminders increase support for a person's in-group and its values. So my surviving in-group, that's the only sort of venue through which my identity can continue. And so it increases support for one surviving in-group and its values, and it also conversely increases resistance to any competing out-groups. So for example, death reminders increase giving among Americans to US charities, but not to foreign charities. Death reminders increase negative ratings by Americans of anti-US essays. They actually increase negative ratings of foreign soft drinks, so they make your taste buds more jingoistic as well. It increases the predicted number of local NFL football team wins. This is not just an American or a North American phenomenon. It increases ethnic identity among Hong Kong Chinese. Death reminders increase German preference for the German mark versus the German euro. It increases acceptance of negative stereotypes of people of other countries and cities. We see it in results from Israel, from Iran, from England, from the Netherlands, just on and on. We also see it in charity. Now, we don't have organizational level data in the US. The only place we've got organizational level data on legacy giving is in England. And among the top 100 UK fundraising charities, the average share that those charities get from legacy income is 26.6%. However, if we look at only the 17 of those top 100 charities that are international relief charities, the average share of their income they get from bequest gifts is only 5.9%. So there's a dramatic split there. Now we can see that split even more precisely if we compare domestic focused children's charities with international focused children's charities. Domestic focused children's charities in the UK that are in the top 100 fundraising organizations, they get 23% of their income from bequest gifts. International focused children's charities in the UK in the top 100, they only get about 7% of their income from bequest gifts. So it's part of this in-group, out-group dynamic that we see. People give current gifts to those international charities, but not as much bequest gifts. This also, an interesting result from death reminders in one study called it the Ebenezer Scrooge effect, where more self-focused individuals increased their ratings of charitable organizations following mortality reminders. By the way, you hear lots of people talk about, oh, we got this gift from this person, a substantial legacy gift, and they never gave to us while they're alive, right? That's not a surprise, because the estate planning decision, the high mortality salience decision, massively different decision-making environment. Because it's a massively different decision-making environment, you're going to get different outcomes from that. Since you're going to get those different outcomes, you can expect that there's going to be different charitable outcomes as well. All right, so that was the research concept that the second stage defense to death reminders is remembrance by and supporting one's surviving in-group. What do we do with this? Well, one of the strategies is to emphasize the long-term impact from estate giving. So in other words, what is so powerful in this area is any type of gift permanence. Even permanence in gift language helps. So this is the idea that something reflecting the person's life story, their identity, their community and values will live beyond them. That is what is so powerful here. And certainly we see that people want more permanence for their bequest gifts than for their current gifts by greater than 2 to 1. Saw this in another study, and this was a study that dealt with memorial gifts, finding that what was the most powerful message to get people to make a second gift in memory of a loved one. You know, people make the first one near the time of the funeral, but they rarely make a second one. The most powerful message was to give an opportunity where, if enough money was raised in memory, it would create a permanent fund. So if you switched it from being used for scholarships to being turned into a permanent scholarship fund, massively increased the willingness to make the second memorial gift and to make it even larger. We see this in another study, and this really drives home the point, because this is really just a study about language, very powerful. So in this case, you had four different groups. All of them had the opportunity to make a gift to a poverty relief charity. Okay, it was always the same charity. The only difference is, for half of the group, it was described as meeting the immediate needs of people. For the other half of folks, it was described as creating lasting improvements that would benefit people in the future. Now, there were two groups. There was one set of folks who were not reminded of their own mortality before they made the charitable decision, and another set of folks were reminded of their own mortality when they made that charitable decision. Now, what happens here is that for the normal group, for the normal donor, for example, the immediate impact message worked better. People gave more than twice as much if you describe the charity as meeting the immediate needs of people. But for the group that had been reminded of their own mortality, that result actually reversed. And so now the most powerful message was to describe the organization as creating lasting improvements that would benefit people in the future. So this is really important to keep in mind, that the right message for legacy fundraising is not necessarily the right message for current fundraising, because for legacy fundraising, permanence is so powerful. We see this, for example, when we're looking at the share of gift income that comes from bequests among these are cancer research related charities in the UK. And there's a direct connection between how long those organizations have been around, sort of that sense of stability, and the share of money that they're getting from bequest gifts. So would argue, if your organization is newer, consider offering permanent funds managed by perhaps a large financial institution or a community foundation to borrow those feelings of strength and stability. So what we want to do is we want to get creative at coming up with permanent giving opportunities. Certainly, if we can't do that, then we can use permanence language when we're describing the impact of the gift. But beyond that, we also want to consider permanent structures. So for example, a permanent scholarship or a lectureship or an annual performance or even having a memorial wall of heroes of folks who have passed on, that have included a gift in a will. We may very well want to limit these opportunities to legacy donors. Not only emphasizes its specialness, but can avoid pulling that current money that we might need for current gifts away from current operations. But again, when it comes to the legacy gifts, what is so powerful is the gift permanence, and that's what we see here.